Hey everyone, Allie from Tarot here. Welcome back to our little tarot corner. Today I wanted to kind of do something a little bit fun, my first VR, and it's a very recent VR. It is a nice snowy day here in Oklahoma, and it's a kind of a quiet day. Things are kind of slow, so I was just relaxing on the couch, scrolling through YouTube as one does, and I happened upon Dani Mystic's video that she like literally just posted, and her VR was #myclassics. And it is basically a tag where she invites you to share your decks that basically, when you think of doing tarot, the decks that you use all the time, the decks that see the most action, the decks that you frequently go back to. And so I thought that that was a really fun tag. So I decided to hop on board and go ahead and do it this morning because why not? So I will start out with a couple decks that you guys have definitely seen before and a couple that are honestly kind of relatively new to my collection but have already become very strong favorites. So I will go ahead and start with a deck that I know you guys have seen before. This is the linen edition of the deck, but I have every version of this deck that has come out so far. I have the classic edition that I backed on Kickstarter. I have the prototype that I was sent for the pocket edition that will be coming out in a tin. And I am currently holding my linen edition. Side notes, but this is the Gentle Tarot by Mari in the Sky. So as I said, this is my linen edition, and I find that this gets a lot of use. I like to keep my classic edition kind of safe and protected. So I kind of use this or my pocket edition more. But I do cherish them all, and so I'm definitely not getting rid of my large version. But I won't talk about this one for too long because we've all seen it, talked about it, but it's a hug in card form. Every time I have something that I need some honesty about, anytime that I want to work through something but with a gentle touch, this is the deck that I go to. And it being linen and smaller kind of poker size really makes it easy for me to take with me. I travel out of town for work every week, and this deck does not ever not come with me. So that is the Gentle Tarot by Mari in the Sky. Next deck is another deck that you guys have seen on my channel before, and it is the Moonbaby Tarot by Brent Palazzo. It is the, look at those pink edges, I just can't, it's kind of hard to see on camera, but it's a very soft baby pink edge. This deck is a reimagining of the Hoi Polloi Tarot, which is also a deck that I was able to track down and that I own. But I love working with the Moonbaby just because I love the colors and I love the cardstock. And I like to keep my Hoi Polloi a little more safe and not use it as much, although I still do use it. So this is just a great straightforward reader for me, and yeah, how can you not love it? It's a Rider-Waite-Smith but with kind of a 70s twist, and I'm in love. But that is the Moonbaby Tarot. Next is another deck that I have reviewed here on the channel, and it is the Experiential Tarot by Julie Comfort. This is, again, one of those decks that I can't not talk about. I can't not have. It's just a very personal deck. The artwork is stunning, and yellow is my favorite color, and so I enjoy that it's kind of monochromatic with pops of yellow. It is straight up my alley. And I do like the non-invasive keywords here on the side. It definitely helps with those beginning to learn tarot. So I love this deck. I don't actually Unfortunately, I don't know if it is still in print anymore. I know she did a small second print run, but I don't know if it's still available. So in the description below, I'll name all these decks just so you guys can have them for reference. And if there is a certain website to go to for the creators, I'll try and remember to put it down below. If it's an indie deck that is no longer in print, which I'm sorry, I do show a couple of those, then I won't have a link, unfortunately, but. All right, so moving on to deck number 4. This is one of those newer tarot decks to my collection, but it has quickly become a very, very fast favorite of mine in a deck that I use all the time, and that is the Terra Volatile by, I'm gonna butcher it, Creoque Absurdium, I think. Creoque Absurdium, something like that. Again, this is the linen edition. I have found that I am a sucker for linen cardstock, even if decks that I own previously, if they come out with a linen edition, case in point the Gentle Tarot, case in point this deck, I will usually purchase the linen edition and either rehome the first one that I had or keep both. I love linen. I love its durability. I love the fact that it feels good in the hands and it's smooth, and I just, anyway, okay, this is not a cardstock video, but this deck is one of those that the artwork is so deep and very, very much esoteric. I cannot wait until their hard format guidebook comes out. I'm anxiously awaiting. And I actually did already, this is edition 0, so it was like the first one that they put out. I snagged it for like 30 bucks randomly when they had a huge, huge sale on these editions that they just had around and they weren't getting rid of. I also did keep the Vessels suit in here. That is extra. So this is the 2 of Vessels. So it's a little bit thicker of a deck. I think with that it becomes like 92 cards, I think. And there's also expansion packs, which I did go ahead and order the newest edition that they have coming out, which is still on linen cardstock, but they have reprinted a brighter version. To kind of backtrack, sorry, squirrel brain. This is edition 0, so they weren't selling it anymore because it was kind of dark. And so the newer edition is brighter. They were selling these cheap just because they'd gotten a lot of feedback that these were really dark, which I didn't mind. But now that I know that they're going to be making a brighter one, I snagged that and the expansion pack. Dani herself has posted a video with her expansion pack, and I cannot wait to go through mine and do the same. There are also expansion cards, just additional alternate cards in the deck itself. And so I have decided, like, there's 3 death cards, there's a couple of magician cards and things like that. So there's already variations that you can create within the deck just when you get it itself, and the option to keep the vessel suit in or not. So that's a whole nother, 14 cards to add right there. So it's kind of a chunker of a deck, but it is beautiful, beautiful. So I can't wait for my newer, brighter version with the big expansion pack. I'm so excited. This is going to be a long video, guys. Tuck in. Next deck forever holds a place in my heart. I have 3 versions of it. I have a first edition that I was very lucky to track down, and then I have this edition, which is a 3rd edition, and I have a mini, which you can see. You see the bright blue, it's right next to it right there, but that is the Bohemian Gothic Tarot. If I had a perfect soul deck, if that was one of the things, which some people have created VR responses to Lisa Pepez's video. She did a video where it was like pieces of my soul. This is one of them. I adore this deck so much. It is everything that I love. It is gothic, it is dark, it brings a lot of light to dark places, I think, for me personally. I love all things spooky and creepy, and of course it's a Baba Studios deck, so unfortunately it is no longer in print, but I have heard that they will be coming out with a new version sometime in 2022, like late 2022 this year, or in 2023. You know I'm gonna be snagging one. And I think they're going to be putting their cold stamping, their foiling on it, the new edition. I like it without it, but I'm excited to see how beautiful it looks with it. But anyway, yeah, this deck is just, it's very smart and sometimes overly direct, and it will tell me what it needs to tell me without holding any punches. Sometimes it's like, okay, here silly, let me spell it out for you because you're not paying attention. And then other times it's just kind of, it gets me thinking. So all in all, I don't ever want to be without this deck, and I think that's why I have tried to find so many versions of it. I carry my mini version with me all the time, just to have, because my big versions I like to keep safe at home. But yeah, I could go on and on about all these decks, but in particular my Bohemian Gothic. And I just dropped a card on the floor. Well, we'll get it later. But that is the Bohemian Gothic Tarot by Baba Studios. Another deck, which I think I've posted about on my Instagram, but I don't know that I have here, is the Superlunaris Tarot, or the Superlunaris Tarot. This is the second edition. The first edition had all blue backs, and this one is kind of pink and purple back, but it still has the rose gold edging, which is beautiful. I like this deck because it is Rider-Waite friendly, but it goes its own way with the artwork, and I just love it so much. It's a very, very easy reader. I don't have to think too hard when I use this deck. I don't have to sit for too long and figure out what it's trying to say. It's very, very clear when I read with it. And the colors in it are just, this is another deck too that the first edition was a little bit darker. And so the second edition, they went in and brightened up all the artwork. And there was an alternate Empress and Emperor that you could put into this deck. And now, speaking of decks in linen, they have recently put out a linen edition. And I'm like, do I need it? No. But also yes. But another reason why I love this deck is because there's a lot of cultural and age diversity in it, which I definitely appreciate. This card always makes me think of Drake. When I see it, I can't not see Drake when I pull that card. It's really funny. But you can see here's a little bit of an older King of Swords, which I can appreciate. There's some body diversity, there's some ability diversity. I think the Chariot features a young woman in a wheelchair, and I love that. I love it so much. So lots of cultural representation. It's a solid deck. You get everything that you need from it, and it's just perfect. Let's be honest, I'm probably at some point going to find the linen edition just because I can't not. So that is the Superlunaris Tarot. The next deck is one that I also haven't had for too extremely long, but is a cult classic everywhere, and it's for a reason. This is my vintage Aquarian Tarot. I found this for a ridiculously good deal on eBay again, and so I figured why not. I could go for the modern version, but I wanted to get a vintage copy because I figured why not. This again, I'm sure you've seen it before, but it's a classic 70s style deck again, and I adore it. I love the colors in it. I love that some are very muted and pastel, like the pinks and blues, but then you've got these bright reds and oranges. It's everything. Like, look at that High Priestess. And the scenery in the background, it's just, it's beautiful. Another, again, I do read within the Rider-Waite system, as you can tell. And so I do have a lot of decks that are, if not clones, basically, you know, Rider-Waite system. That's just what I prefer. I do have a couple of Thoth decks, and I'm slowly working with those to try and learn. But right now I'm happy with Rider-Waite, and I'm expanding my horizons, but there's so much variation with decks now that even if they are not a literal Rider-Waite, if they're a clone, there's lots of decks that just go their own way with it and come up with different ways to work different art styles in and different colors and different objects. And so why not? There's plenty of options out there, and I'm a happy girl. Another favorite of my another one of my favorite cards, there we go, from the deck is the Seven of Cups. I love the rainbow coming out of the one and the big yellow flower. And then you've got a snake. It's just, yeah. Again, because it is a Rider-Waite Smith, it is another very easy reader. I find that she's a little bit more gentle with me. She will tell me like it is, but she's not mean about it. She kind of shows me things and helps me get to where I need to go in a constructive way, not an aggressive way. So that is the Aquarian Tarot. Now the next deck was actually, this is the second deck that I ever owned. The first deck that I ever owned was a Morgan Greer Tarot. I had a friend purchase it for me, and that was the first tarot deck that I owned, and kind of shuffled, looked at, but didn't really truly focus on learning to read or to work with. For a couple of years I had it, and then I found the Crow Tarot by MJ Cullinan. And this was the deck that I actually buckled down and learned to read tarot with. And so this deck is very, very important in my collection because it is the deck that I finally put forth the effort to learn. I read the guidebook cover to cover. I watched many, many hours of YouTube videos trying to understand how to read, and it was simply an exercise in patience and dedication, and I will forever love this deck for that. The artwork is stunning, and I love crows. I love their sleekness. I love their cleverness. And so this is just an all-around really, really fun deck to use. And the way that she designed it is different. It's not a literal Rider-Waite. It is obviously based on the system again, but her artwork that she uses is so beautiful. I didn't know that tarot decks could look like this. This was a surprise to me. This was kind of my introduction to tarot decks that weren't a literal Rider-Waite deck or the Morgan Greer. This was like my first deck that I was like, oh, so there can be decks with different things and different themes. So I will never ever be able to get rid of this deck. I don't read as much with it anymore because my collection has obviously grown exponentially, but I will never ever be able to get rid of it. It's a lot of sentimental value to me because it is the first deck that I finally understood tarot with. So yeah. And I love this Three of Swords. It is actually what my tattoo is based off of, kind of. I wanted more of an anatomically correct heart with the Three of Swords going through it, and so this right here was a big factor into that tattoo, so I love it. So that is the Crow Tarot by MJ Cullinan. Now, the next deck is another common deck for a lot of people, and it is actually one of the decks that Dani showed on her channel too, and a lot of people use because it is so great, and that is... Am I going to sneeze? Am I going to sneeze? No. No, okay. It is the Druidcraft Tarot. So I have obviously trimmed mine because I have tiny little bear paws, and so I could not shuffle the big deck. Although I do have the larger box set version of the deck for the larger guidebook, but initially I bought the smaller set with the guidebook that fits with the deck in the box. So anyway, that's not even important, but this is another one that I won't belabor for too long because lots of people have it and use it, but man, I am a Virgo, and as an earth sign, this deck gives me everything that I want. Lots of nature, lots of earth, lots of pagan influence, lots of druidry, obviously, and it's just, this is another one of those that never hesitates to give me the messages that I need to hear, whether or not it's what I want. This one's a little bit more direct, but it doesn't like to sugarcoat. It's going to give me the reality that I need. So, but yeah. So that is the Druidcraft Tarot. And there are 2 more decks here to show you. I mean, I have a tons more that I could show, but these really are what my collection boils down to. I'll save that one for last. So the next deck is another Baba Studios deck. And this is the 3rd version of this deck that I own as well, kind of like my Bohemian Gothic. I own a 3rd edition of the deck. I own the most recent edition of the deck, which I still believe you can actually get. And the bright blue tiny box right there is the mini edition of it. But that is the Victorian Romantic Tarot by Baba Studios. So this is the version that I just got. I had pre-ordered it. Do I have it upside down? Yes. I had pre-ordered it a long time ago, and it just recently came. These are the backs. And I loved my 3rd edition as well. I used it a lot, but this is just my new edition. So for some reason, my 3rd edition came to me secondhand. I still loved it. It was in great condition, and it was my favorite for a long time. But something about this edition, maybe because it's only been mine, which I typically don't care about, but I don't know, something about this one just, I immediately wanted to use this one and only this one. So I still have my 3rd edition and my mini that also goes with me places, but another deck, it's just got this classic artwork, beautiful. I mean, look at that, just stunning. And it does have, oh, it's kind of showing, not really, sort of. You can kind of see on her skirt and red cape or red piece of clothing there. It does have the, oh, there it kind of is, the gold stamping on it. Yeah, there you go. So it is kind of reflective. But this version also has a little bit more diversity in it. That was one of their big things of why they wanted to re-release the deck. So they have put in some new card images that are great and just as stunning. And so this remains one of my favorite decks. Like, this was one of the new ones that was put in the deck. This is the new Queen of Pentacles. And I love it. It's so, so beautiful. I mean, every Baba Studios deck, I feel like, is essentially you're holding, I mean, every deck, but especially like classical art decks, you are holding an entire gallery in your hand. Like each one of these could be hanging in a museum and I would be thrilled. And so you're holding an art gallery in your hands, and there's just nothing like it. They're so special. So yeah, I could gush and gush and gush. I'm sure there are already some walkthroughs up, but if you guys would care to see one, I obviously don't mind spending a good amount of time walking you through the deck. So let me know if you would like, for some reason, to see me personally do a walkthrough of it. I am happy to do so. Okay, breathe, Allie. So the last deck that I want to show in this video is the out of print version, but the new version, I don't know if it's still in print or not, but this is the Moon Void Tarot. And this is the first edition, the black and white, that again is no longer available. The new edition is like pink. So instead of being pink, or instead of being black and white, it's kind of pink, black and white, but pink is the overreaching color. This version is black and white with little pops of red. And I love this deck because, I mean, right there, I see myself in this deck. It's not a deck that I actually use for other people. It's only a deck that I use to read for myself. And because I see myself as her. I mean, long dark hair, glasses. Not that I wear my glasses all the time, but when I do, yeah. So I just relate to this deck, and I think that's what the artist, that's what she intended. This deck is actually based on her, and it started as a project for her to create her own tarot deck, and then it became something that others wanted, and so we were gifted with the deck. But it truly is a deck that I look at this image and I'm like, oh, I can see myself feeling that emotion in that card. I can just see myself in this deck. So I love it a whole lot. And I know that the new pink version has, I think there are a couple of cards that have been changed. I could not bring myself to buy the pink edition just because I already am so attached to this one. And I'm also not the biggest fan of pink. I know, I do have some decks that have pink in them, but that was just a little too much pink for me. So, but more importantly, I just didn't think that I could love that one as much as I already love this one. So, but yeah, this is the Moon Void Tarot. So that, in a small nutshell, like I said, my collection is somewhat ridiculous. You can't see it, but this whole shelf is full all the way to the top of decks as well on my left. But these are the decks that truly have made an impact in my collection, and the decks that I reach for all the time. Each one of them gives me something different. Each one of them always fills a certain spot for me when I need it. And so I just wanted to share them with you. I hope that you have enjoyed my rambling. As always, I hope that you've enjoyed looking at some of the decks with me, and maybe you've seen something new that you hadn't seen before. So again, I will link all the decks that I can below. If they are still able to be purchased, I'll go ahead and throw a website where you can get them down below too. But yeah, thanks for joining me, and I hope you all have a great Friday. Till next time, bye.